You are now listening to Vibe Selection with Kyra, where you can get the real on today's hot topics.
Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Vibe Selection. We are at a new month. We are coming up on Thanksgiving, and pretty soon it will be the end of the year. We have made it through a very, very turbulent year. But in all that turbulence, I do have a very special guest joining me today. I have Suzie Kerr Wright joining me, who is a psychic medium. She is an astrologer, Reiki Master, teacher, and certified life coach. That is right. She is the jack of all, and she is joining me today to discuss the power of manifesting. Suzie has also been featured in many publications, including Brides Magazine, Cosmo, Elle, and on the ShowTime network. And I am delighted to have her here with me today. How you doing, Miss Suzie?
I am doing fantastic today. It is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So I know that every, psychic medium kind of comes into their own spiritual awakening at different points in their life. Now, in your particular instance, you kind of got thrust into this whole abyss, if you will call it, at a very young age. So tell me a little bit about your spiritual awakening, because not everybody has the same experiences. So what was yours like?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody's spiritual awakening is totally different. But for me, this was always something that was a part of my life. It never wasn't, is the best way I can describe it. I mean, I had basically two dreams as far back as I can remember. One, I wanted to be a rock star, and the other was to be a mystic, or, back in the days when I was enamored with it, it was the fortune teller kind of, vibe, which I don't really care for that moniker much these days. But you know what I mean? It's like, those are my two goals. And so, I was always, even while I was chasing music and, and doing all that, trying to become a big star, I was always reading charts. I was always studying astrology. I was always, reading tarot and spirit, as far as spirit connection, ghosts were always popping in and out of my life. I did not want to do mediumship. That was the one thing I really didn't want to do, because ghosts were very unpredictable and frightening to me. But they had always been a part of my life. They popped in and out, family members, strangers. I mean, I never knew when I was going to see something that I really didn't want to see. So I kind of was really more enamored with the astrological and tarot side of things for the most part. But many years ago, mediumship just kept coming up and kept coming up and kept coming up. And this is probably about 14 years ago or so. And as I was sitting in my office one day doing a reading for someone, and I looked up and there was what I called a ghost, then. And it turned out to be this really powerful experience. I knew that person was there for my client, and I interacted with them, not having any clue as to what I was doing. And so after that, I realized, this is going to really be a part of my life. So that was when I more or less embraced that mediumship side of me. And it was really empowering, because, once I understood it and was really trained in it and practiced and understood how it all worked, I, oddly enough, ghosts don't just pop in and out when they, with unexpectedly. It's under my control, more or less. So it kind of all came together at that point. And so that's where I am now.
That's wonderful. I know for a lot of people, the ghost aspect of things, or being afraid of what you might see when you're having a spiritual awakening, can be very scary for a lot of people, especially if you don't understand, especially being a young child and then coming into contact with all that. It's like, how do you even wrap your head around all that,
Yeah. Well, as a kid, I think for a period of time, like most kids, you think, oh, it's just another person that's there with you, and And then as you get older and you start hearing about ghost stories and you start hearing this, you realize like, okay, this is not really a normal thing. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it. Maybe I should, maybe it's scarier than I thought it was. But, so kids are, we're born into this world. Every single person is born into this world with the ability to see and feel and hear and connect with things that we don't see in this 2D world that we're in,
Absolutely. And that's a good point that you just made, that everybody has abilities, but we as people, a lot of times shut them off. And there's so many people that are not believers in this whole thing that we shut it off because of that reason, because we don't believe. What do you feel like are some signs of a spiritual awakening?
So a spiritual awakening, I love, there's some memes out there that I post frequently to remind my clients. Spiritual awakenings are not beautiful, that you feel like it should be this imagery of passing into like connection with the spirit realm and this whole, skipping down a leafy lane, as my tutor in England said, it's like, it is nothing like that. A true spiritual awakening is a personal awareness of yourself as a spiritual being. It is, and which means you have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it. All of it. It is not a happy, it's not a happy experience for most people because, most of us have led lives, shutting down those pieces and parts of us that we don't like, rejecting those pieces and parts. And our shadow is such a vital part of who we are, acknowledging it and recognizing it. And so this is what happens when you have a, quote, spiritual awakening, is you become fully aware of your own vulnerabilities, your own flaws, your own weaknesses, your own, your own, and it creates a lot of challenges. And it's not a bad thing. That sounds a little bit negative, but it's really not, because what you're doing is you're shedding all of the earthly egoistic things in your life. You're getting the opportunity to shed those so that you can become more connected to spirit and more in the moment, and so yeah, it always kind of cracks me up when people get, have this sense of my spiritual awakening has been so beautiful. I'm like, well, hang on, honey, because you haven't got there yet.
Right. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Hang on.
Just the beginning. And it's a lifelong process. This isn't something you just get through all the ick and then suddenly you're enlightened. I mean, I guess maybe, there may be people out there that are going to, reach that Buddha status and, be able to sit on the mountain and impart, worldly wisdom and be free of all the earthly, all the earthly chains. But I will tell you, that's not a common thing. And I feel like people put a lot of undue pressure on themselves to reach this, this heightened status of perfection. And it's just, it becomes another addiction sometimes to people. I actually call it spiritual snobbery. It's like, oh, I cannot deal with thou because thou is an evil person, or, and it's just, it's like you got to remember, everyone that comes into your life is showing you something about yourself. So stay mindful. Enlightenment is really something that is for most people not truly achievable. Consistent enlightenment. We can have these brilliant moments of connection and flow and being in that moment, and but we're still human. We still live here, on this planet in this time. Yeah. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect in your enlightenment. That's just another way of self-abuse in my opinion.
Agreed. So there's a lot of talk about manifesting these days, all on social media, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere. Everybody is talking about manifesting. But I want to know, what does manifesting mean to you, and how do you manifest some of your goals?
Oh boy, lot to unpack there. Great question. What does it mean to me? It means to be in that state of flow, the willing to receive your, what is good, what is right for you. And I said good, but I also mean, what we perceive as not so good. Willing to accept and receive what is yours to do, what is yours to feel, what is yours to experience. And so that's manifesting. The law of attraction, it's so interesting. I often remind people it's always working whether you believe in it or not. It's like gravity. It just is. It exists. And we are always creating our future. We're always creating our lives, whether we are cognizant of it or not. And so when you start to study law of attraction and ways to manifest your dreams and goals and all of that, again, you're going to hit those places. It's the same as a spiritual awakening. You're going to hit those places where you recognize, hopefully, where you recognize where you are not believing that you deserve, not believing that you can, not believing that you are capable of doing something. And that's the opportunity to move through that, resolve that, and then be able to go to the next thing and the next thing. So again, it's another one of those things that's a constant, it's constant progression. And so, in the 12 steps, they say it's progress, not perfection. And that's one of my favorite sayings. So again, the law is always working. And what we're seeing in front of us, what we're seeing in our world is what we are consciously and unconsciously creating at any moment in time. And, the memes, it's funny because I always post memes about law of attraction and things like that. And a few years ago, I started getting pushback and I'm like, well, how can anybody push back on this? And they were saying, well, it's just another way to blame victims. And that is not the truth. That is not what understanding the law of attraction is about. When you really understand it, you recognize it's about personal power. And it's empowering. It is not victim blaming or shaming. You caused this. It has nothing to do with that. It is, because we unconsciously create so much. So how can you be blamed for that? You can't, but once you're aware of it, you're able to shift it. And that's the beauty. It's the awareness. All of this is just about awareness, self-awareness.
Absolutely. Like you said, you have to take accountability for your parts in everything in life. That's one thing. That's one aspect that's a part of the human experience is accountability. And when you're able to hold yourself accountable for certain things that are going on in your life, then you're able to make that progress within your life also. So, that's something for people to keep in mind. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say that you're absolutely correct. It is about personal responsibility. Once you have the awareness, it is your responsibility to flip that. And we tend to want to put that on other people often, well, if I'm with this kind of person, or if I have this kind of job, or if my family would just treat me like this, then I would fix it. But that's where that responsibility comes in. Absolutely. And so, yeah. And, so many of us have been victimized in our lives. It is not, again, about blaming the victim. There are legitimate, real experiences that we have where we are victimized. And so, but sometimes getting into that, getting past that point is just acknowledging that you were a victim. That's all you have to do. It's not about saying, well, why did I create that in my life? Sometimes there really is no answer to that. You were 5 when it happened. You couldn't have created, but you were victimized. So you have to just own that you were a victim. For many, many years, I struggled with that. And to me, people that, claimed victimhood a lot were very frustrating to me. It's like, can't you pick yourself up? Can't you fix this? Let me help you, And what I realized was I was not owning my own victimhood in some of the situations that, so that does exist. But again, to be clear, law of attraction is never about blaming somebody for, creating something horrendous in their lives. It's about understanding and acceptance.
Yes, absolutely. I love that because I talked to one of my friends a lot. Well, we've had discussions about victim blaming and victimhood and how there's a lot of that goes on in this world. And like you said, as long as you acknowledge it and, you know, you understand that it's not always you and there's not always something that you can do to change that, you know, it's just about sometimes moving forward within your life and making that acknowledgement that, okay, this happened to me. I didn't have control over this situation, or maybe you did have control over that situation, but what is it that you learned from it, and then moving forward? Because like I said before, it's all about progress.
Yep.
So, you know?
Absolutely. Yep. You get it. You get it.
So what would you say are some steps to someone being able to manifest their careers, relationships, or even their goals? I hear a lot, so many times on social media where there's different types of manifesting tips that they'll say, oh, use the manifesting one-on-one to be able to help you manifest everything that you want, your desires and your dreams and this and that. And that's not always a reality. So what are some steps that you feel like are necessary when trying to manifest your relationships, goals, or careers? Is it writing it down? Is it just all about the law of attraction? How would you go about that?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that I'm known for is cosmic common sense. I keep things simple, you know, the simpler, the better. Okay. Mm-hmm. So literally, you said it, writing things down. There is so much power in our words, but not, you know, there's just something disconnected about when you type something into your phone or your computer or whatever, you know, it's really about putting the energy behind what it is you want to manifest, right? Being very specific is very important. You know, I've known people that want to find a relationship and I was like, well, what was on your list of, you know, and they'll come to me because they're in a bad relationship. I said, well, what was on your list of, you know, when you created that dream guy and you know, in your manifestation? Oh, I just said I wanted somebody with a job and I wanted somebody, you know, like, and they would have these very basic things. And it's like, so yeah, you have somebody with a job, you have somebody, but you're lacking passion that you really want, or you're lacking that intellectual connection that you really need, you know? And so be very specific. Yes. Okay. Another way is, like, I know it sounds really hokey these days because everybody's been talking about it for so many years, but vision boards are wonderful. If you're a very visual person, create a vision board, put the things on it that you want to see, put yourself in those situations. Right. And those are very helpful. Really anything that you take an action behind is going to create that energy. Now, here's where all of that goes wrong and why people say, oh, stupid vision boards don't work, you know, writing, I wrote it down, it didn't work. You have to check in. You have to check in with yourself. Ask Spirit, ask God, ask your whatever you believe in to show you where you are resisting receiving those things. Because anytime you're trying to manifest with, so here's a perfect example. I'll give you a really great example of how not to do it. So a friend of mine, she was incredibly creative. She wanted so badly to be a songwriter. She actually drove through town, picked out the building she was going to work in, you know, knew that this was going to happen for her. She was going to be, you know, a published songwriter and blah, 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 right? And so she created this vision board, and every day she would get up and she would stare at the vision board. This is my dream. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. And do you hear what I'm saying with that? This is what I want. This isn't what I have. This isn't who I am. She was missing that connection piece. And of course, none of it happened, you know, because she was coming at it from a place of lack. I want this because I don't have it. And universe is going, it only understands energy voids. It will fill a void. So if you know, again, it's energy matches energy, right? So this is the key to the whole thing. If your vibration is one of, you know, I'm only going to be mediocre, that's what you'll attract. Mediocre opportunities, mediocre people, you know, I mean, it's kind of terrible. Nobody's really mediocre, but, you know, people that don't inspire you, you're going to attract a matching vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are looking at something from a place of, I don't have this, I want this,
Mm-hmm.
then universe is going, sure, we'll fill your want. We'll fill that want with more want.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna match that vibration. You want that because you don't have it. So we're gonna keep that rolling for you.
Makes sense.
Right? That's the tricky part. And that's the frustration with trying to explain because I've been studying this stuff for years now, a couple of decades. And so it's not something you can grasp overnight. You can get the concept, but doing what it takes to flip that script inside of you is something that takes work.
Mm-hmm.
So remember what it is or really connect with and understand what it is you're telling the universe. I'm using air finger quotes here. What are you telling the universe? If you are saying, I know that I am the greatest singer in the whole wide world and everyone should hear me, but inside you can't stand being judged. You can't stand being in front of people. You're terrified and think that that you're not very good. Like that little person in you is saying like, you're not really good. People don't want to hear you. That's what you're attracting. It's not what comes from the mind. It's what comes from the soul.
That's a good point you just made there. Okay. Now we're understanding more because a lot of people think that this comes from the mind. The law of attraction is mind. So, like you said, it's the soul.
It is. So what is your soul vibrating? That's why they say, it's one of the simplest memes. I love this. I just posted it recently is dress for the job that you want, right? Be the person that's in that role. Check in, make sure you believe that you are that person, that you really feel that in your soul. And you're not sitting there going, yeah, I could fake it and get in there and I could do a really good job, but I don't think they'll believe me. You gotta know what's going on inside. It's the same with the spiritual awakening. It really all ties in together so beautifully because, once we are aware of where we are telling ourselves no, we can shift that and begin to tell ourselves yes and receive the yes.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that part of manifesting is also putting action into course because there's a lot of people that do the vision board or they write it down or whatever tools that they use, but they don't take forth action. So for example, if someone wants a particular type of career, they'll write it down. And then you have some people who never go and apply themselves. They don't apply for the job. And it's like, that's not reality. You're not going to just jump out of the sky. You have to go and put action forth.
You got to be in it to win it. Yeah. And so, and again, it's a really good point too. If you want a certain job, but you don't necessarily have the skills, well, here's something you can do in the meantime. There's actually a book called In the Meantime out there, and I have not read it, but it just came to my mind. So somebody out there may want to read this. And it's really about while you're, quote, waiting for the right and perfect relationship to come into your life, the things that you can do. But, it applies to law of attraction very much because it's like this is going to sound so goofy, but here's an example of how another, it's kind of a silly visual of how this works, right? Mm-hmm. So when you go to a fast food restaurant, for those of you who still go to fast food restaurants, you drive up to the little speaker thing and you place your order, correct? Mm-hmm. And then somewhere between where you place your order and where you drive around to pick it up, okay, there is a knowing, there's a faith, there's an expectation that your food is going to be there. Now, granted, it's not always 100% right, but you're not worried about it. It's gonna be there. So you pay and then you go and you pick it up, right? Now, that's how law of attraction works. You place your order. I know it sounds goofy, but you place your order. And you have to be clear and you have to make sure they understand it. You have to be clear with the universe and make sure it is going to understand what it is that you want. And then have faith that it will arrive when it is going to arrive. Now, you still have to drive your car around and pay and pick it up. You still have some action steps you have to take. But here's what most people do with law of attraction. They place their order. And then they get out of their car, they go in, they make their own food, and then they get back in the car and they drive away. Okay?
I love that. It's so true. It is so true.
You start messing with it, and then it's like, okay, so you got what you want. kind of, sort of, but you had to massage it and make it happen. You had to do all the work. It's like, it's a flow. It's a flow. Mm-hmm. And we have to allow, and we have to know where we are blocking that from these things, from, allowing them to come into our lives,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not in the head, it's in the soul.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I've also come across videos where they're saying, you manifest whatever your hopes, dreams, and desires are, and you'll get everything that you want within 6 months or a year or 3 months or whatever. And I know that's not reality. So is there a particular timeline that your goals and dreams or careers or relationships will manifest itself? Or is it a certain time that the universe takes and feels like, okay, now you're ready for these goals to manifest or happen for you? Here, we'll grant you this. Is there any type of timeline?
If it's all in alignment, then there is no timeline. It could be days, weeks, months. Some of the things that I have manifested in my life, it was like I had to be ready for them. Some things that I've been trying to manifest for years have never come true, have never happened. Mm-hmm. So I'm obviously not ready. I understand that. And I've gotten to the point now where I can look square in the face and go, I have a lot of fear around this. I own that. So it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So it really is dependent on how truly ready you are. You can say that, again, going back to the mind versus the soul, the spirit, that spiritual part of us. In your mind, you can be, I am so ready for a boyfriend. I am so ready for love. I am full of love, and I'm ready to give it all up here, and really bring in somebody who's going to be, my everlasting, right? Mm-hmm. But you can keep telling yourself that. But if inside you are terribly, terribly scared to connect with another human being on a deep level, on an intimate level, and intimacy is far different than sex, intimate level, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. There has to be an acceptance. For me, one of the greatest moments of acceptance that I had was when I realized, I believe in God. So, I turn things over to God sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when I hit rock bottom.
You can do.
Yeah. And I've had to hit rock bottom emotionally many times in my life before I did that. But there was a point in time where I truly, for years I said, you know what? I'm ready to find a good person. I had some really, really crappy relationships, pretty devastating ones, and scary ones too. And so, and I was tired, and I finally said to God, because that's who I talk to. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what, God, I am ready to accept whoever you put in my life. I don't care if he's good looking. I don't care if he is boring. I don't care. Whatever you want to bring to me, I am willing to accept, because I am trying to control this, and I've been trying to control this my whole life, and I'm tired. I turn it over. I give it up. I surrendered to win. And I kid you not, you want to talk about fast turnaround? Mm-hmm. It was not even a month later that I met my husband, and I was never able to sustain a relationship for very long. And even the longest one I had was pretty rough. And we've now been married 20 years in December.
Wow. Congratulations.
And he was not ugly. He was not boring. He was not any of those things that I gave up, looking for. He was everything I could have ever dreamed for. And actually, I say that my dreams would have shorted it. If I could have had what I was dreaming for, it wouldn't have been as good as what I got. And so there's this process that also, yes, there's the action that you were talking about. We have to take action, meaning we have to move through our lives. We have to drive around to the window knowing that universe hurt us, and that it's already in the matrix. It's already brewing, And then, when we're ready to arrive at that window, there's times where there's a lot of cars in front of us and we have to wait. We have to be patient. We don't like it, but we have to be patient. And so when it's our turn, it will happen.
Yes.
And that could be days, weeks, months, or years in some cases.
Yeah.
But the faith is required, and the willingness to accept. And one of the things, here's a great tip. One of the things that I always sign off my manifestations with, I do new moon, full moon, rituals and things. And one of the things I always end with is all this or something better.
Yes.
Because I have found that I will short myself every time.
Yeah,
so,
I like that.
So tack that onto your manifestations and see what happens.
Yes, for all you listeners out there, you guys got some tips there. You better take heed on that. I love that. So what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions you feel people have when it comes to manifesting?
We kind of touched on that already. It's just that positive thinking will get you positive results. Yes, there is a mindset that needs, it all needs to be in alignment, but really where most people get tripped up is they can believe it. They can feel it in their hearts. Oh, the desire. Yes, I want this, this is really mine to have. But what is that subconscious telling you? What's going on in there? Is that inner child going, I don't really want that. I'm scared to death. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not ready, Or is that inner child going, yeah, this is exciting. I'm looking forward to this. Like, this is what, this is what's going to happen for us. Most of the time, our inner selves are like in direct conflict with what we think we are. Or maybe that's not a fair statement. A lot of the time.
Yeah. So I know this is kind of a little bit of an interesting question, but I feel like people really need to know some of the pitfalls that can come with manifesting certain situations and things within their lives. Now, do you feel like manifesting certain things can come at a price? For example, let's say, you're a single gal. There's a single girl out there that sees a man who may be in a relationship with another woman, and she may feel like that person is everything that she would want in a person. However, they're already in a relationship. So they're thinking that if they manifest this, that they'll ultimately break up with their girlfriend and get with them. Do you think that is a situation that can have a lot of pushback?
Wow. Yeah. Great question. Okay. So I think I can answer this. Yeah. So first of all, no judgment here. Okay. We all do what we need to do. And there's so many of us in survival mode, especially these days, so sometimes we just do what we need to do. So there's a couple of things to discuss about that. Number one, it's a little tricky to explain, but number one, we can never make anybody else do anything through manifesting. We can never take control over another human being's thoughts, movements, actions, whatever, through manifestation. No, we can't. Even in, spell work and things like that, you always, do no harm, right? You cannot mess with another person's free will and sovereignty. Okay. Some people believe you can. But now this is where it gets a little tricky, because sometimes we can feel like we've done that. And it's simply that, and the way I look at it, and I may be wrong, so I'm always open to learning more, but it may be that perhaps that person is in your life and this lesson was going to happen for you anyways. This experience was already going to happen because you needed to understand something more about yourself. Again, everything that happens in this world is for us, not to us. So if you look at it that way, that, that may be that other individual's path, that may be your path in the moment. And maybe you have to go through something like that and have it, go awry, or turn around and go the other way. Maybe it is a thing where, just the timing of it is off or whatever. But so again, I'm kind of answering it in two forms. You can't make someone else behave or do a certain thing. I mean, certainly you can seduce and you can go, but they're still participating in it.
Exactly.
Right? They're willingly participating in it. Mm-hmm. So, but the other thing is, it may just be that this is a situation that was going to come, whether it was through this person or another person. Mm-hmm. And there's a very valuable lesson that you're going to learn through that.
Yes, absolutely. Because like you said, there's people out there that do love spells, and it's kind of like, you're robbing that person or you're kidnapping them essentially by doing love spells on them, because it was never supposed to happen. They're not into you. And if the person doesn't feel that same attraction, then you can't make somebody want you or love you or want to be with you.
Correct. So, yeah. And so here's the thing though, there are spells and spell work that you can do to make yourself more attractive, to make yourself, to love yourself more so that you are more appealing to maybe that person or maybe something else, somebody else, Absolutely. So it always comes back to that. What's going on in you? What's going on in you that you would want to disrupt another person's free will? That's control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so be careful with that. I do believe in karma too. And, like I said, no judgment around that situation that you talked about. I really do not judge my clients in any way, shape or form. I do not. And I have plenty, that have been in those situations. So, but, it is always about what is it that is going on with you that you feel this is the only person or this is the only way to get love, or what is it that you are trying to achieve? And even more important, what kind of love are you trying to get from this? Because everything we do is either a cry for love or of love. And we mistake them often.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So manifesting essentially is pretty much about asking yourself, is manifesting this for my highest good?
You go.
Looking within myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, and quite honestly, I mean, again, not to kind of sound wishy-washy on this, but, there is no black and white in this. And, it may be for your highest and best to engage in a situation like that. That person may come along and you have this affair and everything is, and then either it goes awry or it turns out to be, that is your one and only, and so either way, there's going to be a divine lesson in everything that we do. There's there's a divine message. Yeah. And it's just a matter of paying attention, but when we are focusing our energy, on anyone in an attempt to fix ourselves, that's generally not going to go real well. Starts with us.
Absolutely.
And, and another thing I wanted to mention too, there are ways astrologically to look at, things in your chart to help you find, I know I'm kind of skipping back to a conversation earlier about career and things like that. There are ways to look into your astrological chart and find out what it is, really mine down into what it is that is right, or your path, I guess, is to use a kind of overused term. And, astrology is really powerful for getting into your psyche, your true desires, the things that you are really trying to manifest. And, a good example of that is, it's a very simple one, but I'll just simplify it, is, if you ask a lot of people what they want to manifest, a lot of them will say, well, I want to manifest money. Right? I want more money. Everybody wants more money.
Yeah.
So you can write in your manifestations, in your journals, whatever you do, put on your vision board, wads and wads of cash, right? I want money, right? Mm-hmm. But the more powerful way is to understand what money means to you. What does it represent? For me, it means the freedom to travel. So now, instead of manifesting, I want more money, I manifest travel opportunities. And sometimes they require money and sometimes they don't. I'm fortunate I have a husband who travels for work and I could tag along sometimes on his trips. So, nice. So in that way, I manifested the ability to travel with and without my own money.
Yes.
See, I didn't limit it. So, and I realized that by really looking at my chart and looking at my Venus in Sagittarius, which is like, what does Venus in Sag want? Oh, to roam the world, the adventurer. That's what I really want.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really good tip that you have there. So it's also being specific, but not, boxing yourself in there too much where you don't have room for the freedom of what the universe has in store for you also.
Absolutely. You got this. You are good at this. You're really good at this.
It took a while to get it, but I'm on the right track. I love that. So, okay, as a psychic medium, I know what protection measures do you use to protect your energy in your spaces, and what other protection measures do you feel that other empaths can use to protect themselves in their spaces?
Okay, so again, right, what am I about? Cosmic common sense. Let's keep it simple, people. We don't have to dance by the moonlight to find our protection, naked in the moonlight. We can literally do things like I have salt lamps everywhere. I have them around me all the time. Mm-hmm. They're cleansing, they're clearing, and grounding at the same time. Mm-hmm. So they will tend to, it has been said that salt lamps, will keep spirit from invading, I guess, if you want to put it that way, right? Yes. But salt lamps, Epsom salt baths for empaths, you should take an Epsom salt bath every day. I shouldn't be giving that advice because I don't know if that's healthy for you. But if it is healthy for you, literally wash the energy off out of your energy field. Those kind of things, smudging. If you've been, if you've been around a big group of people, smudging is simple technique to clear your energy. It just immediately lifts you. Palo Santo is another thing that I've been using a lot lately, and It's very mood elevating. For years, I had these little sticks of things, and believe it or not, for as long as I've been around this stuff for 40 years or more, almost 50 now, I guess. Wow. But like, I never really knew what to do with Palo Santo. And one day I was like, I guess you just light the stick. And so I lit it, and it was like, my mood just shifted. I was like, I love this. It was like, I was just so peaceful. So that's a really great thing to use as well. Mm-hmm. And crystals, but this is the thing about crystals. So there's always a thing about the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Crystals you have to be careful with. If you are a high vibration person, if you're a highly sensitive person, you will buy crystals that say these are for grounding, but they might have an element of spirit connection or something that is going to take you into la la land even farther. Oh. So you want to watch out for things like, something as simple as a quartz crystal. Quartz will magnify and intensify anything that it comes in contact with. So be aware of that. If you have a lot of quartz around thinking, oh, I have crystals and they're helping me, they're probably not. So really do your research. And, for highly sensitives, you really need stuff that is going to keep your feet on the ground because you're out of body so much. Mm-hmm. And another technique that I teach a little class on like psychic vampires and how to protect yourself from them, people like that, and situations like that. One of the things, really good friend of mine, her name is Becky Astorita. She's a wonderful, spirit-led, just beautiful spiritual woman. She she taught me this thing, and I share it with people all the time. If you're standing there talking to somebody and you start to feel your energy drained, or you feel them getting into your energy, you have to be aware, right? Mm-hmm. You can just simply put your hand over your heart or over like your solar plexus. And it almost looks like you're just listening with empathy, but what you're doing is you're actually protecting your heart chakra.
Oh.
And so these simple little physical things that you can do to kind of, keep your chakras from, going, sometimes empaths, their energy goes out and surrounds other people, Mm-hmm. So the idea is keep your energy in your body, in your space, keep your feet grounded, Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of little tips and things that you can do as highly sensitive people to keep your energy around your body and to keep the tentacles from getting in. If mm-hmm. you've ever watched, there's an old movie, and I use this in all my energy classes that I teach. I show people this visual. There was a movie called The Celestine Prophecy that was out many, many years ago. It was a great book, terrible movie. But in the movie, there were these brilliant scenes where there's one in particular where this woman is sitting on a park bench and this man comes over and he's trying to hit on her. And it shows their energy. And it shows his energy, like these tentacles trying to get into her energy. And she's shifting her body and trying to put her energy around her to block it. But he's getting in and she's getting irritated. And it's just, the visual is so real to what happens when we interact with people. In that particular case, it was more of a negative situation. But if you can see it and you can understand it, you can change it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some really good tips. I also, while I'm sleeping at night, I have a plate of salt underneath my bed that helps me to clear out maybe any negative thoughts or energies that I may be harboring, when I'm sleeping, and it helps to clear all of that out too. So for those who want some other tips, that is a really good way to clear out maybe some negative thoughts that you may have. You may suffer from anxiety, and that's a good way to clear them out. Also hurts music, meditation music. I like to listen to that too at night. So with the salt and the meditation music, I've found that really helps to clear off anything that I may be, having on me or whatnot. So
yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We can't keep salt under the bed. We have a cat.
Oh, understandable. So
he'll eat anything. He'll eat anything. Yeah. So salt lives work. But yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. And again, with crystals and things, and meditation you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Also be careful, because there's such a plethora of meditations, free meditations on YouTube and things like that, which is wonderful. But make sure that you are, check in as you listen to them, right? Because I've had clients do this. They say, well, I listen to these great meditations, go, check in and see how you feel after you've listened to one, because there are, a lot of people out there that are putting out meditations, and that's a beautiful thing. But some of them are, again, doing these meditative sounds and things that are taking you off into the ethers, which is not, as a highly sensitive person, where you need to be. You need to be more in your body. So make sure that you feel grounded, or that you feel connected to yourself after you've listened to these meditations. Otherwise, find another one if that's not the case. So
agreed. Yes. So I know you're also an astrologer, and I know that Nostradamus predicted that on Thanksgiving that there would be a major earthquake that's supposed to happen that day. I know that he's also predicted so many other events that have happened within our world. Do you, as an astrologer, see a major quake happening on Thanksgiving?
Wow. Well, to be honest with you, I have not been looking at that period of time necessarily astrologically. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I'll tell you why. We do have coming up in December, what's called a square between the planet Saturn, which is basically about order and structure and all of that, and the planet Uranus, which is that's always kind of a wake up call, and it's in Taurus, which of course rules the ground, the earth. So, Uranus and Taurus is a very interesting mix of the highest vibration and the earthly vibration. So as above, so below, right? Mm-hmm. So I have not been looking at that period of time. I was not aware of that. I tend to read Nostradamus stuff and go, oh yeah, that happened, that, okay. And then I move on and I don't think about it much anymore because we don't really know when exactly these things are going to happen. And a lot of, from what I recall, a lot of his predictions have happened at different times and in very different ways than we thought, because they were very coded. So we don't always know exactly what's going to happen. But I will tell you, we do have that very powerful square between Saturn and Uranus coming up in mid-December. And what happens when the outer planets connect, things will happen generally before they happen. Mm-hmm. In other words, if you have a Pluto transit that's going to be perfected, at a certain time, it could be 5 years before or several months or a year before where you see the events that are going to happen around it. Mm-hmm. And then on the day of will just be that turning point where it's like, okay, now we have to accept this or make a change here or whatever it is. So that usually the day that it happens with the outer planet transits, you already know what's happened. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm not sure how that ties in astrologically, but I wouldn't put anything past Uranus because it is explosive. Mm-hmm. Now we have already had 2 other squares this year, and just in case somebody's listening to this down the road, this is 2021 we're talking about. And in February 2021 and June of 2021, this square happened. So it will perfect again, meaning it will be exact on December 14th. December 24th, which is an interesting day. So events could precede that, as far back as Thanksgiving. I do feel that there is something that is going to shift in a major way before the end of this year. For sure, there is something, and we've kind of. I've looked at this. I've been talking to a lot of astrologers. I do other podcasts where it's just astrologers talking about what's coming up, and we've been looking at this for a while, and because it could be a lot of things. I hate to be vague, but it's just, these days it's so weird. It's so weird, Kyra. Mm-hmm. I was looking at 2020 back in 2018 and 2019 with clients. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I kept telling people, we need, especially people that were going into healing work, healing arts and things. And so, we really need to get our act together and be ready for what's coming in 2020, because people are going to need us. And I remember people looking at me going like, need us for what? And like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't put my finger on it, but people are going to need light workers to step into their power and to hold the space for the light during that year. And we just need to be ready. Mm-hmm. And bingo, bango, look what happened.
Yeah.
So this is that same sort of feeling that a lot of us are getting right now. It's like, and nobody saw that coming. That was really, well, except supposedly Sylvia Brown in her book, which was pretty impressive. Yeah. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. I did see, I used to do a panel at the end of every year on December 12th every year, panel of healers, light workers, astrologers, readers of all kinds. And we would give our predictions for the next year. And in 2019, I did feel that there was going to be an illness that was going to be predominant, that was going to have an impact on what I thought then would be the presidency. And of course it did,
Yeah.
And so we get inklings of these things, but we can't really, this superseded anything that any of us could have fathomed in our brains. We can, because in astrology, what we're always doing is forecasting. It's like, here's condition 1, here's this cloud over here, and here's condition 2, here's this cloud over here. Now, in the past, when they've gotten together, it's been a superstorm. But events can take different turns. One cloud could go a little farther north, and the other cloud could go a little farther south, or they may fizzle out before they get to that point. So we're always looking at, with the planetary cycles, what the conditions can possibly bring. But sometimes it's just not within the realm of our little pea brains here on Earth to understand exactly what that's going to look like. So there will be some heavy activity going into these next couple of months, I would say. Okay. And that is not out of the realm of possibility with Uranus, because it shakes things up literally, and so if Taurus, being an earth sign that it's in, it could literally shake up the earth. But fortunately, that didn't happen in February and June. Typically, what happens is when we have multiple times where something perfects like that, meaning it's exact, it's usually we get we see it a couple of times. We see like, okay, so this is going to have to do with this. And then the next time it happens, okay, so there's a little more to do with this. And then the third time it happens, it's like, okay, this is the final time we're going to have to look at this. So, yeah.
I'll be on the lookout for it. I mean, I really hope there is no major quake that's going to happen on Thanksgiving or anytime this year. We've had so much going on within the past 2 years. It's just been a whirlwind. I know it's for our highest good, and I know it's to wake us up. And I believe a lot of people have been woken up a lot with this whole pandemic, but we still have a lot of unlearning to do here on this earth as human beings. And I believe that we will, start to change, but it will never go back to normal. It's going to be a new normal, if anything.
Yeah. And, and as light workers, and I know many of the people that listen to your show, that's, they hold the highest and best in their hearts. And, I will tell you something about 2022. It's a 6 year. Okay. And a 6 year is about responsibility and healing and accepting. And so, going into a year like that, there's a lot of opportunity for people to step into, again, taking responsibility for their place, for what their role is in this life. I'll tell you, this is one of the greatest things that happened in these last couple of years is when COVID first hit. I left my office. I'm still paying for my office, but I haven't been in it since March 13th, 2020. Wow. And so I know. I keep thinking I'm going to go back. And I'm like, nah, but I don't want to give it up because it's such a nice office. But anyways, I started working from home, and I was really afraid that people were going to just be calling me and asking me when this is going to end. And I didn't have an answer. And that was not at all what happened. Kyra, it was beautiful. People were calling and going, I realized that I have been in this soul-sucking job for too long, and I want to change. Yeah. What is my talent? What is my skill? What should I be doing? Where should I be looking for, my calling? And I was blown away. I could not have loved these last 2 years of readings more.
Yes, I love that.
It has been so, and that's my wheelhouse. That's my wheelhouse. You asked me what your kind of purpose is. I mean, not that we can define it that pinpoint, but I mean, astrologically, I'm looking at your everything about you. And so we look at so many things like what is going to make you happy? What kind of work environment will you be happiest in? What are your leadership skills, or all of these things combined, so it has been a blast for me to read for people these last few years, these last couple of years, because I've gotten to help people find themselves and find fulfillment and purpose. And I'm not saying that to sound like an ad. I'm just saying that it's like, it surprised me, how much of that, it got me very excited to see people being willing to make the changes that they needed to make to feel more fulfilled in their lives, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And that is such a great point that you made, because I mean, there's so many LLCs that have been created. There's so many people, like you said, that are realizing this job that I was working is not fulfilling me. And I want to live out my life's dream of, being a designer, being, a creator, or whatever it might be that they've desired for so long, and actually putting forth that effort. But they ultimately needed that time to just sit and stop for a minute to think and get it all together to be able to put it into action. And I think that is wonderful. And I love the fact that there's so many people out there that are really putting their best foot forward and achieving their goals and their dreams and their aspirations. And that's what life is all about, not just living day to day and just working a job just because it pays good, but working a job that you love. And it's not always going to be a lot of money that you're going to make out of that job that you love sometimes. Sometimes you're going to have to find a secondary job to kind of help you with income, but at least you're able to do what it is that you really want to do. And that is that is what it's all about,
Absolutely. I remember a long time ago hearing, I think it was Johnny Carson's sidekick, Ed McMahon, was credited with saying this. It's like, never chase money. Always go for success. The money will follow.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've lived by that for years. I have always strived to be the best that I can be in what I do. And really, in the last 14 years since I went full time into this, I've never looked back, And so, when you're doing what you are called to do, you're provided for in every way. Mm-hmm. And that sounds all mystical and magical and wonderful. But, again, I'm all about common sense, and I'm living proof that happens. And I've seen it time and time and time again.
Yes, ma'am. So is there anything that you have in the works that you would like us all to know? And how can others reach out to you and connect with you for either readings or on your social media handles?
Absolutely. Okay, so my website is pretty stout. It's got just about everything you could want on it.
Love that.
I house everything on it. So I do have free weekly horoscopes that you can sign up for. I send those out every week, keep you updated on what's going on astrologically, and I do it sign by sign. So there's that. I don't have any classes or anything coming up yet. Got a bunch of things in the works. Working on an oracle deck and some merchandise that I'm going to start. I've never sold anything before, so I'm working on some of those things and putting together some longer term classes. But I've got nothing going on at the moment. Again, this is 2021, so if you're listening in 2022, hopefully there's all kinds of classes you can sign up for.
I'm sure.
But so on the website, there is a tab that says "Work with Me," and services is where you go. My calendar is there. Description of all the different services that I offer is there. The prices, and you can book right online. It is super, super simple. So just go to that website for anything you want to know. The horoscopes are there every week. If you don't want to have them come to your inbox, and any media that I'm doing, this will be up. This lovely podcast will be on there when it's out.
Yes.
And so yeah, that's really the best place to connect with me. On Facebook, it's Astro Girl Suzie. It's Suzie, and you can connect with me there as well. It's a pretty active page. I try and keep it active. And my Instagram is long handle. I changed it a while ago. I don't know why I did it, because it drives me crazy now, but I'm not changing it back yet. It's astrogirl12, which is my website is astrogirl12.com. So it's astrogirl12.musiccitymedium. Yeah. And that's on Instagram.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Suzie, for joining me today. It has been wonderful to have you on and talking all about the power of manifesting.
This has been absolutely a joy. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and it's just lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I just love that you get it. So keep the good word out there. Hold the light, my friend.
Yes,
you got
I will.
this.
Thank you. And for everybody, absolutely. And for everybody else, if you want to connect with me, you can do so at I am Kyra Mahoney. Or if you like to donate to the Vibe Selection podcast, or if you want any input on potential content coming up, if you like to tell me what you would like to hear on the show, you can do so at www.patreon.com/vibeselection. Sign up for one of those tiers and you'll be able to, possibly produce some content for the next upcoming show. And if you like any free merch, if you like to get any merchandise, you can get that at www.teespring.com/vibeselection. Once again, I am your host, Kyra. Stay safe, stay healthy out there. I'll see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you for joining Vibe Selection with Kyra. Come vibe out with us again next time and hear the latest on today's hot topics. Find us on Instagram at I am Kyra Mahoney or donate at www.patreon.com/vibeselection.